Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and it's great to be on the show. It's the political season in Nigeria and we're all getting set for the elections. It's decisive for Nigeria. Get involved. Please get involved one way or another. Let's ensure that we all have a government that we can, at the very least, back. And let's pray that Nigeria will get to the promised land sooner rather than later. Well, this is Channel's Book Club. We like to keep it easy and enjoyable here. We will, of course, very soon get on the political train by featuring books that are about politics, just in the spirit of the season. We'll bring in authors who have written books along political lines very soon. But for now, let's keep it enjoyable and easy. Last week, I spoke about Spear. You must have heard about it, the book written by Prince Harry, the new book that is making waves around the world. And I mentioned that on the very first day, according to Guinness Book of World Record, 1.43 million copies of that book were sold, making it the fastest selling non-fiction title of all time. 1.43 million copies. That's mind-blowing. So I thought about doing the numbers, and it's interesting what I got. On Amazon, one copy sells for $22.42. Okay, so if you sell 1.43 million copies on day one, then you must have generated a revenue of about $32,060,600. 32 million, let's approximate, $32 million on day one revenue, selling one book. Now, if for whatever strange reason, well, I mean, everybody will say, convert Naira to dollar or convert whatever currency, to most currencies in the world to dollar. Okay, so, but for whatever strange reasons, you are converting this $32 million to Naira using the Alaji who changes money for my cousin, okay, in the parallel markets. That will give you about 23,404,238,000 Naira. 23 billion Naira. Extensive approximation there. 23 billion Naira. Day one, selling that book. So what did Harry write in that book? So he revealed things going on in the royal family, personal things, family matters. Members of his family are upset with him. People are debating whether or not he should have said some of the things he said, and he explaining why he said what he said. I mean, the book is just full of gists and, you know, a lot of stories about the royal family. The royal family for many years, as you know, has always generated news, interesting news for everybody around the world, whether it's about Diana or Charles or the Queen, the late Queen, and so on. So Harry wrote about his life and his family, and of course his new wife, Meghan. And that's what everybody is excited about, and that's how 1.43 million copies were sold on day one. Now, that was quite a number of days ago. You can imagine how many copies have been sold by now, and then multiply the 23 billion Naira by X. So, people make mad money from writing and selling books. But that happens in societies where copyright issues, you know, are well taken care of. There are institutions that protect against piracy, that protect against theft of intellectual properties and all that. So you can write a book and sell 1 million copies. You can write a book and somebody who is a producer can take your story and turn it into a movie and you get royalties. That same the character in the book you've written or the book you've created can become a cartoon character or can become I mean, all sorts of, things. And we will come to a time in this part of the world when we realize that oil can be nothing. And we can create entire economies based on the creative industry. There's so much we can do. If only we can eliminate corruption, we can build institutions that will protect intellectual property rights, we can encourage talents, storytelling, creative arts, and so many other things like that. And for all of you out there who have your stories that you've not written, get them out. But I'm not going to advise you whether or not you should be as revealing as Prince Harry has been. Now, if you make about 23 billion on day one, revealing the stories of your family, well, it will be hard not to be convinced to do the sequel book. Well, Harry has decided that there will be a sequel book. Let's see what he brings out there. So, from Prince Harry to children's books, or telling African stories to young people across the continent and in the diaspora. Well, this couple inspire us a lot. Louisa and Dele Olafuyi, who are the co-founders of Kunda Kids. If you have watched this show for a while, you will be familiar with Kunda Kids by now. Louisa is Ugandan, Dele is Nigerian. They are happily married with a child, and they share this vision of telling African stories to the world. And what a job they've done so far. It was a pleasure having Louisa with us as she discussed this vision of telling African stories to the world. Enjoy this.
During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Oladele and Louisa Olafuyi founded Kunda Kids, a publishing and media company dedicated to children's books. Oladele, a Nigerian, is a former consultant and Cambridge MBA alumni, while Louisa, a Ugandan, is a former journalist and innovation specialist at Unilever. The couple are parents who are passionate about telling African stories to African children and others. Books published by Kunda Kids include Queen Moremi, Queen Amina, Mansa Musa, and A for Africa, amongst others. Louisa joined Channel's Book Club to discuss the challenge of telling African stories to African children and the rest of the world.
Louisa, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kunle. Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to having you here. I've hosted Dele, your husband, once, I think, or twice.
Yes.
And I always thought one day I'll have both of you on sets.
Yes.
So let's make that happen soon.
Indeed, let's.
So, power couple, I like to say, in publishing.
Thank you.
It's not very common to have, a couple doing what you're doing together, the same vision, the same. I know you trained as a journalist, and then you worked as a journalist for a number of years, correct?
Yes.
And but you've left us. Why, by the way?
Good question. Well, storytelling has always been at the heart of everything I love to do. I did train as a journalist for several years, and then I went into marketing and business, which is a type of storytelling in and of itself. But it's exciting now to have done a 360 back to storytelling, writing children's books. Yes.
You have a fascinating story. Both of you. Dele is Nigerian. You are Ugandan. Both of you live in the United Kingdom.
That's right.
And both of you are now telling African stories and sharing those stories with the world. How is that going?
Well, it's going fantastically, which is why we're here. It's actually been such an interesting journey as a family and as a business. We are one of the very few Black and African publishers in the UK, especially doing what we've done at the level that we're doing it. So we're very proud of that. We sold, our first 10,000 books in our first year. Thank you very much. And have gone on to do bigger and greater things, given that we've only been around for a couple of years. It's going very well. We're very proud of that, and now have 12 print titles under our belt. A whole range of other stories as well, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But yes, it's been amazing.
For those who are, meeting you for the first time, hearing about Kunda Kids, which is your publishing firm, for the first time.
Yes.
Let's talk about this vision, this idea, that has birthed all these thousands of copies of books and, multiple titles and related projects. Let's talk about the vision, the dream, the idea.
Well, in 2020, in the height of the pandemic, we founded Kunda Kids. Dele, the other co-founder of Kunda Kids, and also my husband. Kunda Kids itself is a children's publishing company, as well as a media content creation company as well. So we create children's books, animations, music, African language learning content, and so much more, all to inspire the next generation about African history and culture. Because it's incredibly important that young people have an opportunity to learn about Africa and celebrate Africa, regardless of whether they're African or not. Africa is a huge part of our story on the world, and it's really important that everybody knows how vital and the contribution that Africa and Africans have made around the world to the lives that we've had, the lives that people have had, and the lives that we live today.
Interesting. I would like you to introduce to us some of those titles or products that you have out there. Let's be a bit more specific now. I know the first products you had that I got introduced to were the titles about African characters, written in children's, well-illustrated, colorful books for kids. So how many of those do you have now, and which other ones do you have?
Okay, so the titles that you're referring to was our first series of books, and that collection was called Africa's Little Kings and Queens. And that was a series of books, fictional, historical books for young people, inspired and based upon people from African history. Since then, we've moved on to create a whole bunch of other fictional and our first non-fiction title. So one book, for example, I'd love to talk to you about is A is for Africa. It's a fun ABC book that we just published this month of January.
That's your newest book?
Yes, the newest book. And it's stunning. It's taken us 18 months to create. So we have spent a lot of time and attention to it, to say the absolute least. But what you'll notice is that when you go and find ABC books, they usually start with A is for Apple, typically. I think 99.9%.
B is for ball.
B is for ball.
C is for cat.
Exactly. So we were talking about how homogenous the ABC board book and sort of alphabet book narrative is, and that A should be for Africa as well as so many other things it could be for.
Why not?
And we felt, well, if A is going to be for Africa, there is no better publishing company to create that book than Kunda Kids. So we set ourselves the task, and it is one of the most beautiful ABC books, period. And it is also one of the most beautiful ABC books with a focus on Africa. The first page of the book is A is for Africa, obviously. And we talk about the fact that some of the first humans that were recorded in history are known to have come from Africa around 200,000 years ago. And we love that page and the fact that we presented in that page. One, because it sets a tone for the rest of the book. And two, because we are all connected to Africa one way or the other, whether you know it or not. And we wanted to know that Africa, there's so much to say, so much to tell, so much to celebrate, and we want to invite everybody along on that journey to do so.
I commend you guys, because this is something that is right up there, in my mind. We have to tell our stories.
We do.
Absolutely have to tell our stories. Now, some of those, we'll come back to your latest book now, but some of those titles you had,
Mansa Musa.
Mansa Musa.
Mansa Musa, Shaka Zulu.
Shaka Zulu.
So Mansa Musa from Mali, Shaka Zulu from South Africa, Queen Chitami from Uganda.
Yeah.
We've now done Queen Moremi from Nigeria, and also Queen Amina from Nigeria as well.
So somebody wants to, I want these titles for my kids.
Yes.
I want the whole, where do they get the titles from?
Well,
because you are not, they are not in Nigerian shops, are they? Am I mistaken?
Oh, no, they are now. So as our business is growing, so is our distribution. We've worked really hard to try and make our books available and affordable. Not only in the UK where we're based, but in the US, in Nigeria, Uganda, where else are we? In Kenya, we're in Rwanda, we're in Ghana, we're in South Africa.
The books are in all those places.
We are working on it because the problem, Kunle, that I really want to stress is trying to diversify the children's book market is not just an issue that we are seeing that needs addressing in the UK and the US. It is an issue that needs addressing across Africa as well. Firstly, there is a poor reading culture. And when I say that, I mean the value assigned to children's books, unfortunately, has just decreased over time. And that means that when we've just come off the back of a holiday period with Christmas, and parents can spend this amount on consoles and clothes, but they don't see the value in a children's book. We know for a fact, we work with a lot of child development experts and we do a lot of research, that children's books are a way for them to escape and to learn about themselves, learn about other people, to be challenged. And it also sows a seed to want to be a lifelong learner, to be naturally curious, to be inquisitive and hungry for information, and to get to know people. There's so much to gain from literature and teaching your child, nurturing your child to read recreationally, not just to pass exams or not just because that's the book that's on the curriculum. So we're working on that. We're working on promoting the love of learning through literature and doing as much as we can to support parents and teachers so that it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be fun.
Interesting. Before you go, Louisa, can you share with us 3 ideas? Many parents I meet say, my children are not interested in books. I want my children to develop a reading culture. What can I do to make my children read more and all that? Can you share 3 ideas, 3 tips? Maybe your favorite 3 tips on how to get a child interested in reading.
That's a great, a great thing to do, and I love to do this kind of thing. I usually share all my tips on Instagram Live and a whole bunch of places, whether you've asked me for them or not. So my first tip certainly would be try and meet your child where they're at. So I think as parents, we usually enforce how we want our children to learn and what they want to learn when we want them to learn. And it's really important. Firstly, young children rarely have a lot of autonomy in their lives. So it's wonderful for storytelling time to be a time where they can exercise choice. So ask them what they're interested in. Ask them how long or short they would like the stories to be, what their interests are, so that you can map and find some suitable stories. For example, on the Kunda Kids app, you'll be able to filter by interest and by different types of stories. There can be audiobooks. They also don't have to always be, handheld books. Yeah. They could be audio stories. We have assisted audio stories, so you can read whilst being read to at the same time. So find out how your child likes to read. Not everybody reads the same way, and there's enough diversity within children's literature to do that. Secondly, build an occasion and a routine around reading. So for instance, my son loves routine, so we do bedtime stories as a must, and now we've started to do good morning stories. So even when we wake up in the morning, we'll just snuggle in bed together and have a quick read. And usually those books are only about 5 minutes, a 5-minute read at max. And if you can just stick to that, however busy you get in your day, because as a parent, I know things get really hectic. It just means that you are apportioning just 10 minutes in your day for 2 stories.
Just 10 minutes.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised to find out that that actually just might be the highlight of your child's day, that undivided time to just sit and share something with you.
And that will be a special memory.
Absolutely.
No matter how, I mean, how many years pass, that child will always remember those moments.
And the
third one.
The third one, don't underestimate how important it is for children to see characters that look like them. Yes, characters that look like them. It doesn't have to be every character, because children have such a vivid imagination that we can all inject ourselves into all sorts of characters like we do in movies and relate to people regardless of where they're from. However, when children see stories with characters that either look like them, come from a similar heritage to them, share some cultural nuances in their homes or in their family structure, it makes them feel listened to, it helps them not feel alone, and it helps them to be able to be more emotionally intelligent as they learn to connect how they feel and what they see about themselves in other characters as well. So finding representation in children's stories is really important, and the severity at which African representation is missing in children's books is why we're so passionate about telling African stories first and foremost.
Yeah, I was going to say that, because before you guys came on board and a few others were trying to do what you're doing, not so many, we don't have enough yet. All parents had were books written by Europeans and Americans and all that, and with all the characters. They're all white. I'm not racist. White, black, we're all the same all over the world, but you get what I mean. You know, so also all the characters, they read about Snow White, they read about Little Red Riding Hood, they read about the three bears,
Goldilocks,
and the Secret Seven, Famous Five, and all those characters. Even when you come down to the comics, it's Superman is white, and Spider-Man, Peter Parker is white, and Lois Lane is white, and Clark Kent is white. Everybody is white. So that's what you're saying we should avoid. While you enjoy those, you need to have other characters in your stories that are a bit more familiar, a bit closer to home, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's about having a nice diversity.
The right balance.
The right balance. And the right balance is not like your 5 a day fruit and veg. It depends on your home, the makeup of your home. A number of houses are also mixed heritage. There's good reason to have a wonderful diversity. And my son also loves to look at other characters from other places too. It's just about making sure that representation is there, and that it is not absent from the home, and it is celebrated. And we must not wait for other cultures to show us our own value. We have seen how successful Black Panther has been, but did we have to wait for Hollywood to show us how cool our culture is? We are literally being sold back to us what we already have. So that's what we're doing as an independent, African-owned publishing company, is not making our content cool, highlighting that we have been cool, Kunle. And yes.
Louisa, it's been nice having this chat with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And well done to you and Dilly and your entire team. Thank you very much for all you're doing.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. Inspiring couple they are. Very soon, hopefully very soon, we will bring both of them to the studio at the same time, Louisa and Dele. It will really be exciting talking to them about their experiences. Well, this is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.